Yeah, that's a kind of a common thing in the back of your head. You're like, this doesn't feel right. I think a lot of that comes from the overall claim story, I guess. Does the damage profile I'm seeing on the roof kind of match what's going on? Usually that comes back to like collaterals, a windstorm. Shingles are amongst the hardier materials that you're going to find on a residential property. And so there should be a bunch of other things that potentially going to get damaged before an asphalt shingled roof, especially one that's in decent condition. Now, a lot of that can change if the roof's in poor condition, but collaterals like what should be damaged? Like, are there fences on the property? What does the soffits look like? All the soft metal stuff. I mean, is there piles of tree or branch debris? The other thing too is one of my favorites was as you're driving into the neighborhood, like I'm looking at all the yards, what all the roofer signs that are there. If this is a big wind event, every other yard's going to have some roofer sign on it, and so am I in a neighborhood that doesn't have any of that? Or am I the only house in the neighborhood that's got a tarp over the top of the roof? Or am I seeing the same thing? So it's one of those where it doesn't feel like it makes sense. Like the only thing wrong with the roof is potentially this wind damage. And then the actual wind damage itself, like the profile of what you're looking at. We probably will talk more about this today, especially with Josh's expertise, but like the type of damage to the shingle, like wind has a pretty specific profile of what it does on average. And if you're seeing some key indicators like torn shingles or missing chunks and pieces, like those are that kind of makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. And before you go saying it is or isn't, you might want to get some expert help. um there's a story about a cape that Donan was a part of, and this had like the most perfectly random damage on every single slope. And you're thinking to yourself, this is an older three tab roof. Like this probably is not going to perform all that well in a windstorm, but like it was perfectly symmetrical damage on all facing slopes of the house. And there was nothing else in the neighborhood or in the yard that said there was a nasty windstorm here. But for some reason, every single one of the slopes had like 3 or 5 wind creased shingles. And even the little dormers had it. So, if things don't add up and you're having trouble making that determination, like that's probably where I'm going to reach out and be like, listen, I don't want to say that it's something it's not, but there's not enough to definitely call it wind damage. That's most certainly where I'm going to like wave my white flag and say like, hey, I'm going to get somebody else in here to take a peek at it. So it's a hard one, but usually comes back to like that holistic story of like what makes sense, what else should be damaged along with this roof.